Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max. සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට My SLT app එකට log වෙන්න. Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max. සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට My SLT app එකට log වෙන්න.
Lifebuoy shampoo ලෙති කිරි ප්‍රෝටීන් සහ මල්ටිවිටමින් හිස කෙස් මුල සිට පෝෂණය කර ශක්තිමත් කරයි.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9, this Sunday, the 15th of January, 2023. Constitutional solution. 13th Amendment can be fully implemented within the next few years, President Ranil Wickremesinghe assures in Jaffna. Sitawaka Odyssey. New train service from Colombo to Sitawaka on Kalani Valley route added with aims of promoting tourism.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Ndivadi Amuata. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A warm welcome. We take you straight to your top stories tonight. President Ranil Wickremesinghe says the government is considering the full implementation of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution within the next few years. Addressing the National Taipongal celebration in Jaffna, the head of state said the government will establish a social justice commission to solve issues faced by the people belonging to different ethnicities and a truth and reconciliation commission pertaining to the civil conflict. He assured that new legislation will be introduced to replace the Prevention of Terrorism Act as well.
Taipongal, a festival to thank the sun god, the forces of nature and the farm animals and people who support agriculture, was celebrated across Sri Lanka by the Tamil community. The National Taipongal celebration was held at the Nalluru Kovil in Jaffna this morning under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
கௌரவ ஜனாதிபதி ரணில் விக்ரமசிங்க அவர்களோடு
අනිවික්කපැට්ටේ
වගේම යාපනයේ දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ ජනතාව ජනාධිපතිතුමන් ප්‍රධානව කැටුව රැගෙන එන මේ පෙරහැරේ
දුර්ගාදේවී මණි මණ්ඩපත්තේ
එන සුමානේ පක්ෂ නායකයන් ආපහු කැඳවනවා. මට ඕනේ මං කිව්වා පෙබ්‍රුවාරි 8 වෙනිදා මේ රට කියන්න සංහිඳියාව ඇති කරන්න අපි මොකද්ද ගන්න පියවර කියලා. ඒක මං පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට කියනවා ගන්න කියලා. මං සති තුනකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා අපේ හමුදාපතිවරයන් ඇහුවා TRC එකක් ඇති කරන්න යනවා මොකද්ද ඔයගොල්ලෝ අදහස කියලා. ඇත්ත සොයා ගන්න අපිත් කැමතියි කියලා කිව්වා. ඒකට අපිට තියෙන චෝදනාත් ඒවට අපිට පිළිතුරු දෙන්න පුළුවන් කියලා කිව්වා. ඉතින් කාගේවත් විරුද්ධත්වයක් නැහැ TRC ඇති කරන එකට. ඒ වගේම ත්‍රස්තවාදී වැළකීමේ පනත වෙනුවට අලුත් නීතියක් අපි ගේනවා. සමහරු කියනවා මේක තුරට විරුද්ධව යොදවනවා කියලා. නෑ මේක යොදවන්නේ රටේ ස්ථාවරභාවය ඇති කරන්න. මට ගිය අවුරුද්දේ මේක දකුණට යොදවන්න තිබුණා. ඊපස්සේ අපි බලන්නේ දැන් 13 වෙනි සංශෝධනයේ සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න. අපේ දකුණේ මහමැතිවරුත් ඉල්ලනවා මේක කොහොම ක්‍රියා කරන්න කියලා. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා අපි කතා කරලා ඒවත් ක්‍රියා කරන්නට යනවා. ඉතින් මේ ටික අපි ක්‍රමානුකූලව කරගෙන යමු ඊළඟ අවුරුදු දෙකේදී. මුස්ලිම් ජනතාවට ප්‍රශ්න ගණනාවක් තියෙනවා. දෙමළ මුස්ලිම් අයට විතරක් නෙමෙයි සිංහල අයටත් ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒව ගැන කතා කරන්න සමාජ සාධාරණ කොමිසමක් ඇති කරන්න ඉන්නවා. එහෙනම් මේ ප්‍රශ්න කතා කරලා අපි ශ්‍රී ලංකා අනන්තතාවය තවත් තහවුරු කරමු කියලා කියනවා.
Meanwhile, in his official Taipongal message, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said it is imperative that all Sri Lankans unitedly commit to contribute to the government's new economic and social reform program and rebuild the country with economic affluence. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena meanwhile said Taipongal will inspire Sri Lankans to live in harmony with nature and further the spirit of compassion in his official festival message. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa said this festival emphasizes the importance of transcending narrow differences such as race, religion, caste and living a life in harmony with nature.
Police fired tear gas or water cannons at a group of protesters who were attempting to march towards the Nallur Kovil while the National Taipongal ceremony was taking place. Measures were taken by the police to thwart the protesters near the Asabdi Junction following a tense situation between the protesters and the police.
The march, organized by a group of students of the Jaffna University together with a group of relatives of missing persons, had reportedly begun from near the Jaffna University. While it was heading towards the Nalluru Kovil, where the national Taipongal ceremony took place with the participation of President Ranil Wickremesinghe, steps were taken by the police to block the road near the Arsadi Junction. However, during their attempt to march towards the Kovil passing the police barricades, water cannons were used to disperse protesters.
Taking you to other political stories tonight. The Samagi Jana Balawegya has decided to nominate parliamentarian Mujibur Rahman as the major candidate for the Colombo Municipal Council. Opposition leader and SJB leader Sajith Premadasa has informed the party working committee about the decision. Accordingly, MP Mujibur Rahman is expected to resign from his parliamentary seat to hand over nominations next week. It is said that former Minister A.H.M. Fauzi is expected to enter Parliament once Mujibur Rahman's parliamentary seat vacates. Well, former Minister President's Council Faiszer Mustafa resigned from Sri Lanka Freedom Party. Senior Vice President of the SLFP at the time of resignation, the former minister said he tendered his resignation from all positions he holds within the party. Faiszer Mustafa said his letter of resignation has been tendered to the party chairman, former President Maithripala Sirisena. Sri Lanka's High Commissioner to India, Milinda Moragura, discussed ways to enhance economic activities and tourism between Sri Lanka and the state of Gujarat during discussions with the Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel. In another discussion with the Gujarati government, Acharya Devrat, discussions were held on imparting technical know-how in agricultural and farming practices to Sri Lanka.
During his 3-day official visit to the state of Gujarat, Sri Lankan High Commissioner in India, Milinda Moragura, met with Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel at his office in Gandhinagar. Discussions focused on enhancing economic activities and people-to-people contact between Sri Lanka and Gujarat. Talks between the Sri Lankan envoy and the Gujarat Chief Minister also focused on the interactions between the state of Gujarat and Sri Lanka in multiple spheres and particularly in the tourism sector. The importance of promoting the Ramayana Trail in Sri Lanka among Gujarati tourists and the Gujarat Buddhist Trail among Sri Lankan pilgrims was also discussed. Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka High Commissioner in India met the Governor of the state of Gujarat, Acharya Devrat, at the Raj Bhavan in Gandhinagar. While discussions were mainly focusing on the relations between Sri Lanka and Gujarat, the Sri Lankan envoy sought cooperation of the Gujarati governor in imparting technical know-how to Sri Lanka on agricultural and farming practices. Moragura also briefed the governor about Sri Lanka's decision to appoint an honorary consul in Ahmedabad to cover the state of Gujarat.
And a new weekend train service added to promote tourism. Details after this break.
It's hard to keep up with the new when you're listening to the same old Slim Bread Week. A week for professionals.
Welcome back to the news. We take you to business news now. Chairman of the Colombo Stock Exchange reiterated their readiness to support the process of restructuring state-owned enterprises through a broader listing framework which allows SOEs to be listed in the Colombo stock market. Speaking at a media briefing organised by the CSE in Colombo, he also said that the Colombo Stock Exchange will lobby the government to use their platform in listing state-owned enterprises. Meanwhile, on domestic debt restructuring, the CSE chairman is of the view that it will have a positive impact on the stock market.
There is uncertainty about local debt restructuring. How would it play in the stock market this year? I mean, if the debt restructured, whether it's local or not, how would it have an impact on the stock?
So I think a debt restructure more or less is a given in terms of foreign currency loans, and I think that we all know is going to happen. Now, when that happens, what component or what percentage of a haircut it is, we don't know. But I think that has been digested by market already. So I don't think that's really going to impact the investor sentiment positively or negatively, because it's, in my opinion, priced in. Domestic debt restructure, if it comes in, could possibly be positive to the market, because fixed income is the asset class that will get impacted, meaning government securities would have that haircut. So I don't really see a negative impact of a domestic debt restructure on the Colombo Stock Exchange. It might actually end up being slightly positive, because you might have investors saying, I'll move into asset class that doesn't have a haircut as opposed to being an asset class that has. That's my personal view.
As part of restructuring state-owned enterprises, the government has initiated a process to combine all state holdings it has into one entity with objective of restructuring. Can you perhaps expand on what, if you had any engagement with the government on the role the CSE can play in SOE reform, and also perhaps comment about how the establishment of an entity that holds all these state-owned stakes might play a role through the public markets?
I think we are readying ourselves to facilitate that process. The Colombo Stock Exchange is a platform to list companies and to raise capital, and we are ready to do that for SOEs as well. As part of that initiative, what we are doing is looking at a broader listing framework that can enable the SOEs to list, because the listing rules are fairly strict on certain governance and compliance factors that may not ideally suit the SOE framework structure that exists today. So we are now, with the regulator, drawing up a framework that would allow SOE listings to happen. Whether the government uses that platform to ultimately list these SOEs is a decision for them to make. But we would lobby for them to use the Colombo Stock Exchange. And I think if you look back in the past, some of the state-owned enterprises that have been privatized or minority or majority stakes sold out were done through the Colombo Stock Exchange. So we think this is the best platform that is currently available for that reform process. Specifically, if you're going to list the entity and then look at sort of, selling a stake out to investors. We also believe that using the Colombo Stock Exchange would give investor confidence, because that's the infrastructure that is transparent, it is governed by regulations, and is ready to be used. But we hope that the government would see it that way and use it, because that's something that I think would develop capital markets to a great extent.
Taking you to some international business news, Iranian oil exports hit new heights in the last 2 months of 2022 and are making a strong start to 2023 despite US sanctions. Now, Tehran's oil exports have been limited since former US President Donald Trump in 2018 exited a 2015 nuclear accord and reimposed sanctions aimed at curbing oil exports and the associated revenue to Iran's government. Exports have risen during the term of his successor, President Joe Biden, who had sought to revive the nuclear deal and hit the highest since 2019 on some estimates. This comes despite headwinds such as a stall in those talks and competition from discounted Russian crude. Reuters reported that Iran's crude exports in December averaged 1.137 million barrels per day, up 42,000 barrels per day from November, and the highest in a 2022 figure, according to companies that track the flows on higher shipments to China and Venezuela. Iran's crude exports in December averaged 1.137 million barrels per day, up 42,000 barrels per day from November, and the highest 2022 figure. Taking you back to some local political news, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party is to contest the upcoming local government elections in some districts, including Polonnaruwa and the north and east, under the symbol of the hand. Party General Secretary Dayasiri Jayasekara, following a meeting with party chairman, former President Maithripala Sirisena, said that they expect to announce key decisions with regard to their local government election campaign tomorrow.
19 political parties have presented their election deposits to contest for 206 local government bodies in 24 districts. Acceptance of election deposits is expected to conclude on the 20th of January at 12 noon. Meanwhile, nominations of candidates contesting from the Supreme Lanka Coalition and Freedom People's Congress-led alliance under the symbol of the helicopter was presented at the Sri Lanka Freedom Party headquarters in Colombo today.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ අයින් වුණොත් ඒක ඔවුන් ගන්න ඉතාම අනුවණ තීරණයක්. දැන් මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන මහතාට වෙච්ච සිද්ධිය සම්බන්ධව ඔබතුමාලා අගතියක් වෙන්නේ නැද්ද ඒ ගැටලුව ඡන්ද ව්‍යාපාරේ? ඒ නඩු තීන්දුවත් එක්ක එතුමාගේ දේශපාලන කටයුතු වලට ඇතිවෙච්ච බලපෑම ගැන මම හිතන්නේ එතුමා සිතා බලමින් ඉන්නේ. ඒ පිළිබඳ තීරණයක් ඉදිරි ප්‍රකාශ කරයි.
In the meantime, a meeting of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party on the local government elections was held today under the leadership of party chairman, former President Maithripala Sirisena.
තවදුරටත් හෙලිකොප්ටරේ ඉන්නවද නැද්ද කියලා තීරණය කරන්න නැද්ද? අපි තීන්දුව කීපයක් ගත්තදී අපි ඒක හෙට කියන්න. ඒ වගේ පොළොන්නරුව දිස්ත්‍රික්කය, ගම්පහ දිස්ත්‍රික්කය, යාපන දිස්ත්‍රික්කය වගේ වැඩි දිස්ත්‍රික්ක වලට කොහොමද ලකුණු? ඒක දැන් පොළොන්නරුව අපි කොහොමත් අතින් තරම් කරන්න තීරණය කරලා තිබුණා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේම උතුරු නැගෙනහිර දමිළ සහ මුස්ලිම් ප්‍රදේශවල අපි අතින් තරම් කරනවා. ඒක සම්දානෙත් එක්ක සාකච්ඡා කරලා අපි කරේ. ඊට අමතරව දැන් අද දේශපාලන මණ්ඩලය කරපු සාකච්ඡාවත් එක්ක හෙට මේ සම්දානේ විධායක සභාව කැඳවලා තිබෙනවා. අවසානයේට ඒකට අපි සම්බන්ධ වෙනවා. සම්බන්ධලා ඒක ගැන අවසන් තීන්දුවක් ගන්නවා.
Welcome back to the news. Sitawaka Odyssey, a weekend special tourist train service was added to train operations today with the aim of boosting tourism. The first train service on the Kalani Valley route began its commute from the Colombo Fort railway station this morning.
In a bid to promote the tourism attractions within the Colombo district, Sri Lanka Railways and the Ministry of Transport added a new train service on the Kalani Valley route. The Sitawaka Odyssey train made its maiden trip today. Sitawaka Odyssey will provide tourists an opportunity to witness a number of tourist attractions in Colombo, which will include the waterfalls Ranmuduyalla, Kumariyalla and Gorakayalla, as well as other attractions including the Sitawaka Wet Zone Botanic Gardens. The train service will be operated every Sunday from the Colombo Fort railway station at 7 a.m. to the Baga railway station and will make stops at these tourist attractions along the route.
I'm from Kazakhstan. Today was a very beautiful day because we see amazing place.
I visit 24 countries and Sri Lanka is my favorite country to visit this place. It's really a nice place. Jaweva.
And that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9 on AdaDerana 24. For the very latest, do subscribe to our socials. I'm Derana English. Good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.